Hey everybody, and welcome to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in and checking out this video. Appreciate you all so much, and stay tuned for more. Gonna keep on going and going. Ain't no stopping me. Hey everybody, week 14 is a wrap. I'm here to give you the recap on the David Sports Combo. I'm your host, David. I went 8-5 last week. Whew. A lot of games could have went my way that I tried to predict. I was awfully wrong on others. As the season comes down, almost being over, it's going to be easier to make these choices or harder or more difficult. We'll see. But hopefully I have better results going forward. Now to start off the recap, we're going to break down the Lions beating the Green Bay Packers at Detroit. Smoking them, sweep of the season. Going with 2-0, end up the score 34-31. Came down to the wire. Tim Patrick was the star on the Lions offense with 6 for 7 receptions. Not too many yards, 43, but had 2 touchdowns. Fantastic receiver for the Lions. Love what he does in the run blocking. And now to see him as an actual vertical threat and or possession receiver that comes in clutch for Jared Goff, like how Josh Reynolds used to be. It's great to see. Can't wait to see it. Probably Allen Robinson is going to have a big game next week. Look out for that. For the Packers side, got to give credit. Josh Jacobs is on a tear on the touchdown market. He had 3 touchdowns off 18 rushes, 66 yards. Woo! He was hard to stop. Our defense was not looking great. I love the additions to the Lions defense. Jamal Adams, Quan Alexander looked great out there. We'll see how other players turn out. Our injury report is devastating. Campbell's doing his best. So moving on, great win for the Lions. Fantastic to see for Thursday Night Football. And then Thursday Night Football we have coming up would be the Niners and the Rams. I think that's a big game, especially if the Niners destroying the Bears and the Rams beating the Bills. Hopefully we'll see who comes out on top of that key division matchup. Moving on to 1 o'clock games, we had the New York Jets at Miami. Miami came out on top 32-26 as Tua was dishing and diving. Tyreek Hill is a top performer, 10 for 14, 115 yards and a touchdown. And on the other end for the Jets, Devontae Adams adding to his historic career, 9 for 11, 109 yards and a touchdown. Woo, that was a great game to watch. Miami came out on top. Hopefully Chop Robinson on the defensive end isn't hurt too bad, as they need him to have some type of defensive pressure. We'll see how going forward as they're trying to make the push for the playoffs. Then we have Atlanta at Minnesota. It was Kirk Cousins' homecoming game, returning to Minnesota after Atlanta gave him that big contract to pull him away from Minnesota. He did not look good, and Minnesota destroyed him 42-21. Jordan Addison, 8 for 12, 133 yards, 3 touchdowns. Fantastic to see for Jordan Addison. He is emerging as a top elite receiver. We'll see if he stays with the Vikings. Amazing to see. Darnell Mooney, 6 for 7 on the other end for the Falcons, 142 yards with no touchdowns. It was a great effort on him. Bijan had a little rush touchdown, but Minnesota destroyed Atlanta. So Minnesota is looking like a top team. As I've been saying, they're probably the number 2 team in the NFC. Can't wait to play them. Then we have New Orleans at the New York Jets. The tickets were literally $1 a ticket for general admission. Fantastic value. If I was living in the area, I would have been to the game, no matter what. It's football. New Orleans came out on top 14-11. Poor home crowd. Jawan Johnson had a touchdown. 4 for 5 catches, 133, or my bad, not 100, off 50 yards. Not a lot of big offensive performances on either end of the side of the football. Trayon Tracy had 16 rushes as a rookie with a touchdown of 45 yards and 38 catching almost 100 yards of scrimmage. Fantastic to see the rookie. Hopefully they still keep feeding him the ball. Then we move on to Carolina at Philadelphia. Philadelphia came out on top 22-16. It was a great game to see. Bryce Young is looking fantastic. Everyone should reclaim the whole bus clause. And then I can't wait for the start next year as everything probably meshes way better. They are giving teams trouble. And every game they lose, it's a tough out. I can't believe Philly pulled away. Saquon Barkley had 20 rushes, 124 yards. He's trying to break the record. He's on pace. He's going for it. And then on the other end, it was definitely a rushing game. Chuba Hubbard with 26 rushes, 92 yards, and a touchdown. He had 100 yards of scrimmage. That was, it was a good game for Philadelphia. Came out. Everyone's trying to give them drama, but at the end of the day, they won the game. Moving on, Cleveland versus Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh, key division game. Even though Cleveland is definitely out of everything, they still give a little bit of a fight. Pittsburgh came out on top, 27-14. Honestly, Kadarius Toney's ruined the game for the Browns. He muffled a putt to give a key turnover for Pittsburgh, and he caused a flag for the 2 plays he was in. I think he was in for Pittsburgh to win. Poor career to see from the former Gator. Top performer for Pittsburgh, Pat Freiermuth went 100%, 3 for 3, 40 yards and a touchdown. And then for the other end, Cleveland, Jerry Jeudy's looking fantastic every week. He went 5 for 6 receptions on 64 yards and a touchdown. And not too, but again, compared to what he was doing with Denver, it's leaps and bounds. They should have kept him. Moving on, we had Las Vegas at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay came out on top in a game they should definitely dominate. It was 28-13. Rasheed White had 2 touchdowns, 1 catching, 1 rushing, with 17 rush yards and 90 yards rushing, and basically 100 yards of scrimmage. Then you had Michael Mayer on the other end for Las Vegas. Not too impressive, but 7 for 9 off 68 yards. Good win for Tampa as they try to push to win the division, as the rest of the division keeps losing games, other than New Orleans. We'll see how it all turns out in the NFC South. Then moving on to another terrible division game, we had Jacksonville at Tennessee. It was a terrible game, hard to watch if you're on either side of the aisle. Can't believe Tennessee lost it. Jacksonville came out on top. That was one of the games I got wrong. It was 10-6. Tony Pollard had over 100 rushing yards off 21 rushes. Tank Bigsby had a touchdown. Not much to see there. Terrible game to watch. Then for the 4 o'clock games, we had a key division matchup with Seattle at Arizona. Way more important than Jacksonville and Tennessee, as Seattle came out on top 30-18. Zach Charbonnet stepped up, former Michigan Wolverine, looking good, and Kenny Walker was out. He had 22 rushes, 134 yards. He had 200 yards of scrimmage and 2 touchdowns on Arizona. Fantastic showing. And then for the other end, for Arizona, their key player or top performer was James Conner, 18 rushes, 90 rush yards, and a touchdown. So Arizona wet the bed. We'll see how they keep on pushing after this. Seattle is on a 4-game win streak. We'll see how they keep up with it. They're in line to win the division. They just got to beat the Rams the last game of the season. We'll see how that turns out. Then moving on, we had Chicago at San Fran. San Fran dominated Chicago, making Caleb Williams questionable to be a number 1 overall pick, as the score was 38-13. The rookie Isaiah Granito, I can't pronounce his name correctly, had 15 rush yards, 78 yards, and 2 touchdowns and 100 yards of scrimmage. And then for the other rook on the Bears side, Roma Doomsday had 5 targets, 4 receptions, 42 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was the only top performer, and it was all in garbage time in the second half. They only had 4 yards on offense in the first half. It was pretty bad. Then for the game of the week, which I did not see this being the game of the week, but it was fantastic. If you watched this game, it was great to see. My boy Matthew Stafford, the gunslinger, came out on top, led the Rams to beat the Buffalo Bills 44-42 in an epic shootout. Top performers on that, Puka Nacua with 14 targets, 12 receptions, and 162 reception yards and a touchdown. And then on the other end, for the receiver play, Khalil Shakir, 5 for 8 receptions, 106 yards, and a touchdown. But we can't leave this out. Josh Allen had 6 total touchdowns, 3 rushing and 3 passing. It was a dominant performance. And even with all of that, the Bills lost. That just tells you about the defense. But my boy Matthew Stafford pushing the Rams to playoff hopes. They're going to be the scariest team in the NFC to play in the wild card. Great game for the Rams and great game for my boy Matthew Stafford. Hall of Famer. Moving on. We had on NBC Sunday Night Football, key division game. We had the Chargers at Kansas City. Kansas City pulled away. The score was 19-17. Low scoring affair. Chargers gave them a run for their money. Top performers, DeAndre Hopkins with 4 for 9, 32 yards and a touchdown. and then Quentin Johnson on the other end, and could have had more yards. Like, there's a couple penalty plays that took away from his impressive showing. Was 5 for 7 and 48 yards and a touchdown. Tough loss for the Chargers, but I believe they're going to bounce back next week. Hopefully, Justin Herbert isn't hurt too bad. That was definitely a tough play to watch. But the Chiefs, they look vulnerable. Even though they're winning and they have the record they do, they look vulnerable. Anyone can tell you that. It's crazy the Chargers did not win that game. It was tough to see. Moving on, Monday Night Football I don't know if you watched on Disney Plus, they had the Football's Fun Day with The Simpsons instead of Toy Story, as I did my live stream last year on the Toy Story. It was good times, and I actually got to watch it not in person, got to watch it at home by myself, and it was great to actually fully watch the game and enjoy the experience. Compared to last year, they definitely upgraded on a lot of the animations. As they did the layover, it was fantastic to watch. I think they need to do it again next year. I wonder what show or cartoon they'll do over, or movie they'll do for the layover or theme of the whole game. But it was great to see, and I loved it. Cincinnati came out on top over Dallas at Dallas, 27-20 after a big special teams mishaps after the Dallas Cowboys blocked the kick but did not secured the ball and gave the ball back to Cincinnati, and then Ja'Marr Chase with the game-winning touchdown. And speaking of game-winning touchdown, Ja'Marr Chase is the top performer as he went 14 for 18, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. Woo! And then on the other end, for the Cowboys, their star receiver had a touchdown. He was 6 for 7 on 93 yards. That is my recap of the week for week 14. Excited for week 15 to kick off, and hope this helps you in making more decisions, at least for your fantasy teams, on how everything shaked out. It was one of my favorite weeks of football. I did not think it would be one of my favorite weeks of football going in, but that Rams Bills game at LA was a shootout to see. That was awesome. I hope there's more games like that in the coming weeks. I know like week 18 we probably won't have too much competitive football, or the most competitive football, as teams are trying to solidify their seeding into the postseason. We'll see how it all shakes out, and hope for you to stay tuned for more. Thank you all again for watching. Have a great one.